Trooper.
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping and reacting and reviewing Wakanda Forever. Sorry, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. From Wakanda to Talokan and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always, Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
A lot of things, seeing it was a 2 hour and 41-minute movie.
Yeah. I was so excited to get to the
not
conversation that I didn't say the entire title of the movie correctly in my intro. I just went right to Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, and in no way felt like a 2 hour 41-minute movie.
Sorry, say that. What did you say again?
I said in no way did it feel like a 2 hour and 41-minute movie to me.
See? There's our first difference. Yeah. I felt like it felt long to me.
I felt it dragged in the MCU scenes, but that anything with Namor and Wakanda kind of brought it back.
I felt like it dragged. Sorry, should we jump in?
Fire away.
Different way?
Spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen the movie. Turn this the hell off and come back after you have.
Yeah.
Because it was a really good movie.
We both, I think, we haven't talked about it at all.
No, not at all.
I also really liked it. We both really liked this movie.
I think that's all we knew from each other was that it was a positive experience on both ends.
Yeah. But I did want to not say anything until we actually got to the podcast about it in case one of us was like, I hated it. And then we could.
I was vague in trying to push off text messages to
me too.
friends of ours that may have been texting us and like,
okay,
we're not biting. So
well, I did go to a later showing last night, so
true. See, I saw
by the time I got home, it was too late to even respond to anyone that was asking me about it.
So I saw the 10 a.m. on Saturday. You saw the later show that night.
I saw the 9 o'clock last night, which means I got home at midnight. So quite a late. Again, 2 hour and 40-minute movie. That's a long movie.
Yeah, I could see at 1 a.m. it feeling like it dragged a little bit more.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, let's go back into that now that we've gotten, spoiler warnings out of the way and the non-spoiler that we both liked it.
Yeah.
Because I would rather end with stuff that we loved about it. So I got to say something that one negative thing for me is that I felt like it dragged a little bit.
Okay.
And that's the thing, like they were still showing us great stuff and like stuff that I was interested in and stuff that was necessary for the plot. But after Shuri got captured, I felt like it started dragging. But that included the whole like showing us Talokan and showing us the undersea, like getting to know Namor a lot more and like a lot of that stuff, which was interesting and great. But I was just like, it seems like the pace is dragging and there's
might have been able to trim it a little bit.
I definitely felt like it could have been. Yeah, it could have been trimmed a little bit. But at the same time, they wanted to give themselves enough time to do everything they're going to do, which was a lot. They have a whole ensemble cast that they're dealing with, and they're introducing Namor and an entire other world that we've never seen before.
Right. Well, at the same time of doing all of that, one of the things that they absolutely nailed about the movie, mourning the death of T'Challa and honoring Chadwick Boseman in doing so.
Yes, eulogizing Chadwick Boseman and getting us through the plot points regarding T'Challa.
Yeah, and that hit right off the bat.
Yep, they got right into it. I really liked how they're just like jumping right in.
Oh yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, that whole first the pre-roll scene, like before the utterly silent Marvel
logo
roll with all of his images in it.
Yeah,
I was sitting there and I'm like, I actually, it's been a long time since I've teared up that much in a movie. Like that one, that hit me. And then again at the mid-credit scene. I don't know why.
The mid-credit scene was the closest I got to actually like being like emotional, really. But I did think it was great, and I really liked, and Ryan Coogler kind of talked about how when he rewrote the movie, clearly like his death affected how he rewrote the movie because he had to write it into the movie. So it was really kind of referential to real life or reverent to real life. He died of an illness
Yeah, I think that might have been how it like hit me, was that just knowing the circumstances for where he was, and like them referencing, oh, he didn't show it, or nobody
he
knew
didn't
it.
tell me about it until it was too late. Someone says that later, like Shuri says that later. I think in the movie,
Shuri,
like really,
yep.
You know, because in real life he didn't tell anybody. He kept working. He, you know, just kept it real close to his chest until he couldn't hide it anymore.
Right.
And you know what? I think a lot of people didn't know until he had died. I don't think Ryan Coogler knew that he was sick until he heard that he had
until
passed.
It was like enough to the point where he told people.
I think I remember reading that Ryan Coogler didn't know that he was sick until he died. I could be wrong about that, but I know that there was people close to him, people that he worked with, that didn't know that he had cancer until it was announced that he had died.
That's crazy.
Anyway, yeah, I was, clearly everyone, that's a big thing. Everyone's wondering about how they're going to do that. I think they do it very incredibly well. It's clearly a tribute to, it's dedicated to him. The end of the movie, it dedicates to Chadwick Boseman. And it's clearly an homage to him, a love letter to him and his character and his acting, really the entire film, because the grief that everybody's going through runs through the entire movie.
Yeah, most of the plot of the entire Wakanda side of the movie stems from that. You know, Shuri's split, Shuri's like everything that went on there. Angela Bassett, who hell, like if you talk about someone killing it in this movie, like
my God, dude, I wasn't sure when we were gonna. I mean, you brought it up, so I'll jump in. Angela goddamn Bassett in this movie is phenomenal.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Like, not
in this role.
It's one of those where like you talk about Marvel movies and all that, and it's like, oh, somebody deserves an award. It's like, no, she legit like that was a performance. I can see that. That wasn't even right. And especially like, it's not like the, people saying, oh, Robert Downey Jr. needs one for Iron Man or what. It's like, no.
Yeah.
She put in a professional shift on this thing. Like this was up with anything that like weight wise that's out there.
Yeah. And honestly, normally I don't go seeing Marvel movies thinking, looking for Oscar material, looking for Oscar bait or anything like that. I know there's some people that just love the MCU and think that everything should be nominated for, like, that Downey should get an Oscar nod. Like, I don't really agree with all that necessarily, but this, I think I only thought that because Black Panther was nominated for Best Picture, the original.
Right.
And so if we're going to do this, then I can see this being nominated for Best Picture. I can see Angela Bassett getting a Best Supporting. Nah, I just thought she was incredible. I thought she was the best in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Out of anybody.
Letitia Wright things aside, like Letitia Wright, the person
aside,
she put in a shift too. Like that was
she was great. Everybody was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Denai Guerrera was incredible.
Oh yeah.
As Okoye, Lupita Nyong'o was great. Everyone was really good.
Yeah.
In this movie. But I think Angela Bassett just
100%
stole it.
I did like that they used M'Baku for some light comic relief in a lot of the scenes too.
But he was also, more than comic relief, they used him for serious conversations too. And Winston Duke, he's a great actor as well. I think that I liked his character a lot. And I was talking with my wife on the way home how I mentioned earlier, they were able to do so much. And again, it's a long movie.
Right.
But, there's other long movies that still feel like a mess. Like they're long, but they still didn't give themselves enough time to tackle everything well. I didn't feel like anything was rushed at all in this movie.
Right.
I felt like it was the amount of time they needed to do all the things and move all the pieces that they needed. Could you have cut the Riri Williams storyline? Maybe. I mean, you needed an incentive for a clash between Wakanda and Talokan, but
right.
Whatever scientist it is that invents that thing doesn't have to be Ironheart. They could have cut that down a little bit, but it's cool that it was. I liked her a lot. I thought she was great, and I liked having her in the movie. I thought that was cool, but that's something that they could have changed if they wanted to cut it down. But
if you're looking for a scientist in the MCU, it's going to be Tony Stark, who's dead.
Yeah.
Peter Parker, who isn't owned by anybody.
Yeah.
Bruce Banner, who also isn't owned by anybody right now. Reed Richards, who they haven't introduced, and they definitely weren't using that as the cameo, or Ironheart. I mean, yes, there's plenty more,
but it could have been like a no name. It could have just been nobody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they didn't have to make it. They didn't have to make room for her character as well
Yeah,
if they wanted to like trim the plot. But again, I think it didn't even adding an additional character that wasn't necessarily necessary.
Yep.
It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like she was crammed in. It felt organic to the story. Which I guess I'll just get this out of the way too. I don't know if it's Ryan Coogler. I don't know if it's the material or whatever, but this movie felt more like, I know Marvel fans will probably hate it when I say this. This movie felt more like a real film and less like a Marvel movie to me.
Yeah.
More so than any other movie since, I think, the first Black Panther movie, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think this is the best looking Marvel movie that I've seen in a long time. Besides like Eternals, I thought looked great because it was shot on practical locations and stuff. And before that, Black Panther. I think that like it just looked great. It didn't look like it was in front of a green screen. Like, no offense, a lot of Marvel movies look like. They all kind of look the same. They have the same kind of sheen. They have the same style. Like, this was still very, very much Ryan Coogler's vision. He kind of is breaking the Marvel mold a little bit as best he can. I mean, there's green screen stuff in the movie. It's
right. There were a couple Namor moments that threw me off, but beyond that, everything else, like even the green screen stuff, looked solid.
Yeah, I agree.
Mostly him flying and flitting, like some of the.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about Namor now that we're talking about. Okay, so name that threw you off the way that
the Atlantean in the room. No, not so much the way I was specifically the VFX around Namor were confusing. Like there were a couple spots where you could tell like they had a little trouble with that one. Primarily when he was in his standard like one knee half up floating pose, and it was like they didn't quite nail that. Okay. But no, I don't know your thoughts on how Mr. Submariner looked.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved him. I really liked. I mean, we talked about this when we saw the trailer, but I liked that they leaned into like a Mesoamerican, Aztec, South American like style for him and his people. I thought that was smart. And dude, they leaned so hard into those little dumb wings on his ankles.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I loved every minute of it.
Loved every second of it. Like my wife could audibly hear me. I was giggling
every time they like zoom in and go.
I would just go. Yeah. I went like a number of times. I was so happy because it's just like such a dumb little design
from like, 1940.
It's silly for it's silly for comics. You know what I mean? Even in comics, it's silly. But then to like lean into it and no one made one joke about how his tiny little wings on his feet, and that allows an entire human being sized person to fly like a bird. That should be impossible. The physics aren't great on that at all.
Well, 1939 physics, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. But like the flicking and flitting around.
Oh, that was great.
I really liked that because it was like, okay, well, he's flying differently than like we've seen what Superman fly or Iron Man. You know what I mean? Like he's like darting around more like Tinkerbell, honestly.
Yeah, kind of.
Than any other hero we've seen fly in a superhero movie recently. So I was like, I love this. Is like as a distinct like motion for him and his little tiny winged feet.
And also different than how he addressed things underwater too.
Yeah.
Like he had a distinctly different style of motion and like feel underwater than flitting through the air. Yeah.
Good point. I agree with that. And even like there was one shot up close when he lands on the palace window. Right before, spoiler alert, he drowns the Queen of Wakanda.
Yeah.
There's one quick close-up of his feet landing on the glass, and you really get to see those wings. And they're not just like feathers or whatever. They're like there's like bone and muscle in them, like literally like a bird's wing growing out of his foot, which I thought was great. I was like, oh yeah, no, it looks like hefty. It's like a thing. And then she rips one off. Later,
I was gonna say when Shuri ends up ripping the one off, it's like a chicken wing in his hand, not like a couple of feathers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more because in the comics a lot of times it just looks like he's got 2 feathers on each ankle, which
it's
is
like
not enough.
the stereotypical Mercury shoe looking thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. But I liked him a lot. I liked his characterization. I liked that he was very much for himself, like kind of for his people anyway. And he was very like not necessarily warm, but he was open to talking, open to negotiation, open to showing Shuri around. But at the same time, at the end of that conversation, he's like, if you cross me, I'm going to kill you and everyone that you love.
Oh, he was.
He didn't.
The characterization of Namor was very like he's out for number one, and number one and his people, but like he's always the he's an actual anti-hero.
Yeah,
like he's a dick and he's an anti-hero. Like he only will be on the side of good when good helps his people out.
Yep. Yeah, and I thought that was they did a really good job with that. So yeah, I liked him a lot. I really liked how they showed. Okay, because we know we've seen Aquaman, so I was wondering okay, what is Talo Khan going to look like in difference to Aquaman, and
right.
The difference is, I guess, in Aquaman we don't spend a ton of time in Atlantis. I mean, there's a fight scene in an arena, or in the palace in Atlantis in Aquaman, but and we get sprawling city shots, flying through or swimming through these gorgeous light up scenes and things like that, and it looks great. So I was like, okay, well, how are they going to differentiate that? And I loved how they did differentiate it by it was just dark because you're a mile underwater or whatever. It was just dark until that globe or whatever. He brought the sun, which I thought was cool.
People the sun
and also I loved how they showed day-to-day life. Living underwater, people playing games, people picking weeds, doing we just live in the water. It was cool.
Right. We just happen to be down here. It's the same as you guys. We're just wetter.
Yeah, they just showed a civilization. And it's not that Aquaman showed us that too, but they showed us just the people, cheering for a battle in an arena, not people growing food and waving as people walk by like it's a neighborhood. I really liked the feel of that they were able to
that and the natural the use of the caves, and it wasn't like they just built a city down there,
right? Yeah,
the utilizing the substrate and everything was kind of earthy but also functional.
Yeah,
and they've definitely used a lot of fishing nets.
Yeah. So I thought he was great. What did you think about Riri? What did you think about Ironheart?
I thought it hit pretty well. I thought it was great that right off the bat she knew who Shuri was.
Of course, yeah,
it makes she was just fangirling over wait, what are you doing here? I know you. Oh, now really, what are you doing here?
Yeah, that was really funny and it was really great. Natural interaction for someone that's so smart to be. Of course, she would know who Shuri
exactly.
is. Also noticed that she's at MIT. Who else do we know that's going to MIT?
Couple friends
and Ned.
of
yeah.
Which may lead into something we'll talk about in our main podcast. Some rumors about one.
Yes, you're right. One Tom Parker. You're right.
Yeah.
Teaser. Stick around for that. So that's possible. I thought it was. I said this to my friends last night when we were walking out that the way that at the end Shuri was your armor was great, but I can't let you keep it. It was oh, well, there's the plot of your Disney Plus series that we know is coming for sure. But I fixed up your dead dad's car, so you can take that with you. You can drive it right into your Disney Plus series where we're going to learn all about your dead dad trauma. Mm-hmm. Here we go.
Here's a series set up on a silver platter. Enjoy.
Exactly. Definitely setting that up. And I don't know if you noticed, but there was some quick shots of the montage of them preparing for battle where Shuri was working on the plant and she was working on her armor, where they showed her in a tank top hammering something.
The
definite reference to Tony Stark. And there was one other shot, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was that is exactly that is a reference to the first Iron Man movie. The way she's working on that armor right now, I know it.
It was before. It was actually before that shot. I think it was when we first meet her, or when she has the original prototype armor. There was something there that I had the same reaction of like, know where that shot came from?
Oh, really? Yeah. Yep. So that's cool. I'm into that. I'll be excited to see that more. I mean, I was already, but now seeing Dominic Thorne as the character, I don't know. I liked her a lot, so I'm excited for that series. I'm trying to think of what else. A mutual friend of ours said that he saw it last night, and I don't think he liked it as much as you and I did. He said he didn't like the final battle. And I guess part of me thought it was weird that it was all taking place on a boat. But I didn't mind it. Like once it was happening, I was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense.
Right.
I think I thought it was a strange location for a final battle, but didn't bother me really.
No, I could see that. At the same time, like how they got there didn't confuse me that much. Like they seemed at least it seemed like a rational, like a logical progression.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it might just have been a way to showcase like cool 3D fighting with whales.
Yeah, dude, I liked all the whale stuff. That's a great thing. Yeah, that was really cool. I feel like this was more quote unquote realistic than like the Aquaman stuff. Like Aquaman was very like, we're leaning into how insane it is that people can survive underwater and communicate with animals. Like we're leaning hard into that, and in a way that was great, and I think paid off really well, because you see people riding giant crocodiles fighting crab monsters at the bottom of the ocean, and that's insane in a great way. And this was like, no, these are like real. We're just hanging on the side of real whales. As using them as a way to like launch us. Like it was that one scene where like there was a whale that started diving down and launched somebody out of the water with its tail. Like that was dope. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I did like the way they portrayed the Atlanteans too. How underwater they're look normal, pigmented, and then like
they turn
come
blue.
Above ground they're blue. I was like, oh, okay. Like I was trying to figure out how they would get the blue, because in the comics the Atlanteans outside of Namor are blue, right? And like I didn't want them effectively to be the Na'vi from Avatar.
Sure. Yeah.
Which and that might be why they also leaned into a mild split there.
You're right.
Because like
they're like, okay, we can't be too close to Aquaman, we can't be too close to Avatar.
Yeah, so we gotta land in the middle here and see what happens.
One of those things we own, so we can go look at James Cameron's storyboard and see what he's doing. Right. But the other one, we just gotta guess. Right. We've seen Aquaman, we don't know what they're doing in the sequel, but we can do our best.
Yeah, and Aquaman leans into the shiny and more mermaidy type look, like classic mermaid type view of it. So
right,
works
more
out
comic booky.
Yeah. Yep. So.
I thought there was one other thing I was gonna ask. So I thought they did a really good job of keeping us guessing as to who the Black Panther was gonna be, because they didn't reveal it in the trailer. And although everybody, including you and I, talked about it was probably gonna be Shuri, they really didn't make it clear until she's laying down on the table to drink the herb. Like that's the first time I was like, oh, it's going to be her. Okay.
Well, and even after that, after what ends up happening and the cameo of that has been, held in check relatively well, or at least I missed it. What's that?
Wait. Oh, Michael B. Jordan?
Poster with Michael B. Jordan.
I called that shit.
You did.
Called it. I might have said it on a podcast a while ago. I'm not sure if I did. I think I did.
I think you might have.
It could have been a long time ago. I do not remember when.
We've only done a couple of these.
But I definitely said it at dinner with my friends last night.
Yep.
Beforehand. I said it to my wife on the way to dinner before the movie, and I said it at dinner. I was like, I think whoever it is that drinks the herb, is going to go to the land of the ancestors, and they're not going to meet T'Challa, clearly. They're going to meet Killmonger.
Yeah.
And I was right. And then very excited because I feel like I always have predictions that I think are good, but they never pan out. And this one
definitely did.
Nailed it.
And yeah, I mean, he was the last Black Panther.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, because, well, I guess depends if T'Challa before him and after him count,
Yeah, I
but
guess
you know what I mean.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He was a Black Panther and he was King of Wakanda.
Right.
For 2 days or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So that's enough. That's enough to qualify him.
Yeah.
You know. And I thought he was great. I thought that scene worked really well to give us a little taste of Killmonger and tie it to the first movie a little bit, and also to push Shuri to where she needed to be. And like,
yeah.
I liked that conflict in her. She was like, "Why the hell did I get to talk to him? I don't want to talk to him. Like my family abandoned me." You know, I liked the anger in Shuri because like I liked that because it kind of mirrors T'Challa. T'Challa wanted to murder Zemo, and then only in the last, right before he was about to do it, did he realize, oh, he wanted to kill whoever killed his dad. He thought it was Bucky.
Yep.
When he realized it wasn't, he was going to kill Zemo, and then he realized, oh, you've lost things too. I'm gonna take pity on you. I'm not gonna kill you, which is exactly what happens to Shuri. She's like enraged about her family dying. She's enraged that she didn't get to talk to them. She got to talk to this asshole,
right,
who she hates. And then she goes dead set on killing Namor.
Yeah.
And then doesn't, because then I love that she got the vision of her mom then when she needed it. And she says, Angela Bassett says to Shuri, show them who you are, which is what she says to T'Challa in Black Panther when he is being challenged by M'Baku for the throne in the first match. And I rewatched most of Black Panther a couple days before. I got too tired, but I got through that part. And when he gets like stabbed and he's down in the water and she yells, show them who you are, or show him who you are.
Yeah.
And so that's the same line that she says to Shuri in the moment when she needs it.
Right.
Show him who you are. Which I thought was great.
Yeah.
It worked very well.
I did like the just a complete aside, I did like the Imperious Rex nod.
Yeah.
That
was great.
I was like, I wonder if they're going to do it, because it is kind of corny and it means nothing and it just sounds cool. So that's been Namor's battle cry since time.
Yeah.
And
got to.
Yeah, they got it in there. So
they got it in there. But I was about who was going to be Black Panther. Like when Okoye got fired from the Dora Milaje, I was like, oh, it's going to be her.
Right.
And then when
Nakia
showed up, I was like, ooh, Nakia's back in the game.
Right.
Maybe it's going to be her. And then especially when Nakia is there, when Shuri finalizes it, I was like, or, creates the synthetic herb.
Right. I thought it was too much of a convenience to have her just show up and then, oh, look, it's done.
Right. But I was like, oh, is she going to be like, oh, it can't be me. It's got to be you. You're, whatever.
Right.
But then it was Shuri. But I did think it was, even though we kind of all thought that it was going to be, I liked that it took its time to tell it. Like, it wasn't even concerned. Like, they didn't even, like, make that a thing. They didn't even make it a question in the movie. It was like, who's it going to be? It was just like, there isn't one.
Right.
We don't have a Black Panther anymore. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
I don't know. I thought it was a cool way to do it. I thought it was great. And so I don't know what else. Is there anything else? We get Julia Louis-Dreyfus,
right,
ex-wife of Martin Freeman's character,
right, of Everett Ross, and that's the part. That whole thing, like, I was talking to some of my other friends, and my buddy John brought up a good point. They could have cut that whole subplot out and made a really tight 2-hour movie.
Yes, yeah, you're right. We didn't really need the MCU Freeman in there at all. He could have been in that one scene where he tells them that it's Riri, and that could have been it.
Right.
We didn't need him at all.
Quick cameo because it's a throwback, because he's there and whatever.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good point. I think they probably wanted to put Julia Louis-Dreyfus in there.
Yeah.
Because they're setting her up.
Needed something bigger than Falcon and Winter Soldier to throw her in. And
well, yeah, you're right, man. You're right. That's a really good call. I feel like we could have gotten the one scene in the beginning where they come to him to ask what scientist invented the vibranium tracker machine. And then we could have gotten something at the end that was just like a reveal. Could have gone back to him, and then he turns and the camera pans and he's talking to Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and we're like, oh man,
she's back. Yeah.
We didn't need that much more of her. or of him. To be honest, you're right. You're right. They could have cut that whole thing. Besides the one scene of Queen Ramonda at the United Nations in the beginning, which was great.
Yeah. Again, speaking of monologues,
we didn't need to cut.
We talked a lot about monologues in Andor. Speaking of monologues, like again, slaying it, talking to the UN.
Yeah. Yes.
Great.
Incredible. But yeah, we didn't need to cut back to Richard Schiff as Secretary of State again or anything like. You're right. That's smart. That could have been a cut for sure. Could have cut it down at least to MCU 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Right. But the MCU of it all has got to be the MCU of it all. It's like the blessing and curse of all of this.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't know if I have anything else besides the. What did you think of the Shuri's Panther suit?
I thought it looked great.
I thought it was like 15% too much decor on it.
It felt
like there was
Shuri,
like a lot of lines and a lot of sparkly stuff. Like a little less. I would have liked it more.
Like all the gold accoutrement on it.
Yeah. It's just too much. It's like, why is that there?
Well, it kind of. I mean, it kind of reminds you of, and that was the thing I thought when when it popped up, was it has a very Killmonger suit vibe.
Yeah.
And it was kind of in between Killmonger and T'Challa, which I guess makes sense for the character. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there.
Well, it's also the MCU, so we know it'll look probably very different the next time we see it. They redesign shit all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Riri Williams' suit will look very different in Ironheart.
I'd be shocked if any hero had the same exact superhero suit in 2 different movies.
In the immortal words of Mel Brooks, merchandising.
Yeah, exactly.
Spaceballs, the flamethrower.
Yeah. So do you think is M'Baku the king of Wakanda now?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
because he showed up to challenge, but Shuri wasn't there.
Right.
So who's challenging M'Baku? I think he did that. I think the way that he arrived at that ceremony tells me that he spoke to Shuri about it. Like, deal. She abdicated the throne to him.
And showing up in the ship with knowing that Shuri wasn't going to be there.
Right. Yeah.
So they had to have had a conversation.
Yes. So then, very touching ending. She burns her funeral gown, which she was not able to do earlier in the movie.
In Haiti.
What's that?
In Haiti.
In Haiti, yes. Visiting Nakia.
And
I thought that was a great ending of the movie.
Oh, yeah. And they set it up nice of I guess we're not to what they set up yet, but that whole thing of 5-6 years later, finding Nakia, taking her leave and coming to closure with T'Challa's death.
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, I had kind of forgotten about that funeral thing.
Yeah,
that her and her mom do at the beginning of the movie, but I thought it was really well done. And then the shots of the 2 of them are Chadwick Boseman and Letitia Wright from Black Panther. Just the shots of him. It's complete silence.
Oh yeah.
In our theater, just complete silence. It was wonderful.
Right.
Great way to end the movie. And then mid-credit scene, we find out that Nakia and T'Challa had a son.
That Ramonda knew about.
Yes, that the Queen knew about. The Queen got to meet. And the son's name is T'Challa.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily think that we're going to see him as Black Panther anytime soon. I think it was just a wonderfully heartwarming way to think of the legacy of the character of T'Challa. And I mean, it's not like it was Chadwick Boseman's son or whatever, but it was very emotional. It was wonderful. And certainly sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say they hit it right as far as for all of the movie, including and up through the mid-credit scene. They hit the vibe of what they needed to do for any of the Boseman adjacent stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. And this, I mean, this also left openings in the future if they want to reuse the character of T'Challa. Well,
sure.
Classily still like and heartwarmingly like addressing everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which also explains why Nakia was gone for 5 or 6 years and all of that. So it ties up a lot of bows without, without doing it clumsily or clunkily.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So yeah, that was wonderful. And that's it. That's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. A bit long for my taste, but other than that, very good. For me, this is the best movie of Phase 4, easily, without question.
Hands down.
I think some people may. I mean, a lot of people.
Numbers say that too.
Yeah, a lot of people like Spider-Man a lot more than I did, but for me, this is a slam dunk best movie of Phase 4. And honestly, I don't know. It's the best Marvel movie I've seen in a long time. I think a long time.
Yeah, it's solid all around.
And it's making a ton of money. I think it's made like almost 400 million worldwide. I think in the first couple of days already. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I know domestic was like 180 or something.
Yeah, it's doing some good numbers for sure. So, so I think that's it. If you're just hearing this for the first time, we did talk about episode 10 of Andor, the greatest Star Wars thing in 40 years. So you can check that out. Should be in your feed. And we're about to stop talking about Black Panther and record our full normal week wrap up of nerd news. And guys, there's a lot of exciting stuff that came out this week. A lot of cool announcements, a lot of cool stuff. So pay attention to that. Check it out right after this, after Steve tells you what to do to support this podcast that you're listening to.
Yeah. Feel free to subscribe on whatever platform you're watching this on. If you're anywhere you can leave us a review, do so, because, well, it helps us out a lot.
Sure does.
If you're listening to it in your podcatcher of choice, find out a way to review us, because, well, we need to. If you want to get a hold of us, check us out on any of the socials. If you want to drop an email, Multiverse Report, themultiverseport@gmail.com, themultiverseport.com. Beyond that, I don't know. I think that's about it.
I think that's it. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.